Welcome, everyone, to another episode of eXhuming the X-Files here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. My name is Matthew, and I am joined once again by Jeremy.
How are you?
And each week we are working our way through one of the greatest science fiction shows of all time. And this week we are talking episode 17 of season 3, Pusher, which is the return of Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan as writer. And we saw his first episode last season, which was Soft Light, which I think we both dug quite a bit. Now, before we get into this, because I think this is a very memorable episode for both of us, I ran some stats, Jeremy, and we're on episode 65 of this show. There's a total of 218, meaning we are 30% through the series. How are you feeling getting 30% through 218 episodes?
I thought this was going to be arduous in the beginning, and those first couple of episodes in the first season were like that. But now that we're kind of in the swing of things, it's getting fun. The show is consistently good every single week, so I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah, it's been fun so far. It'll be interesting to see when we hit that moment when we're like, oh god, when we notice it's starting to go downhill, because I think through at least most of season 6, it's like, okay, there's bangers week to week. I mean, we're gonna be pretty happy, but then when David Duchovny leaves the show, and whatnot, are we gonna feel the same, or are we gonna be like, oh god, we have 50 more episodes to get through? So, but we're not there yet. We are excited. We're still in that phase where we remember a lot of this stuff from when we were a kid. And this, and this episode in particular, both of us remember from when we were a kid. Now, what do you remember about this episode?
I remember the quote at the beginning, before the title screen. He's using hypnotic suggestion, and you and I have been saying this for years. Cerulean blue,
yes,
like a gentle breeze.
We will just whip this quote out at random times throughout our lives to various people, and it's just it was one of those things. I remember talking about this when we talked about this in high school, after this episode aired. We were like, cerulean blue is like a gentle breeze, and that's a line that has stuck with me my entire life. And I don't necessarily understand why, because I think there's a lot of I don't know. What do you think it is about that line that just stuck with us?
It's not even particularly funny as an inside joke. It wasn't really an inside thing in our friend group. Me and you used to say it, but over the years, I've said it I've been sitting in traffic. I've said it when I just want to die at some point. It's just stupid. I don't know, but the way he delivered it, I guess it's just the impact of this episode. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Not to bury the lead, I think we both love this episode, but let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about this prologue, soft opening, cold opening. Take us through it.
All right. It starts in the nice Russ's Market in Virginia, and you have this guy walking down this aisle, and I don't know if any of you out there have ever stocked a grocery shelf, but normally they put the same shit in the same aisles just to not confuse their people. But as he's surfing through, he picks up a Mott's apple juice, Muscle Milk, and Nilla wafers all in the same aisle. I was, what the fuck was this? It was a real store too. It didn't look like a set, but who fucking put that aisle? Anyway, as he's just dumping Muscle Milk into his cart, this creepy dude kind of looks around the edge. He's looking at the dude dumping the Muscle Milk into his hand trolley, like the sisters looked at Andy Dufresne. And it was weird, but he's like, all right, he's not really paying attention. He goes up to the grocery store. There's a fucking National Enquirer that it features the Leech Man from a while back.
It's so cool. It's and he just looks at it, he's like, huh, he doesn't it's a joke to him, but it's no, it was actually a real thing. Fluke Man was real.
And that's the way the National Enquirer used to look. As you walk through the grocery, I miss that old stuff. You just see some whack shit on a magazine or a newspaper sitting in the grocery
Yeah.
aisle. And
I can't tell
oftentimes,
you how many times I just picked up a Weekly World News because there was some weird UFO bullshit on the cover of it. I was like, I'm picking this up.
just, and it was always just some awful shit inside. But anyway, um, the guy all of a sudden just gets, or he knows that all of these people are around him are the FBI somehow, and he gets arrested. Um, I can't even remember. Did they read him Miranda rights or anything? Because I don't
I
think
think
they
so.
did.
I
Oh,
thought
okay.
I thought they did. Yeah, I think so.
But you
But you
find
get
it,
that special agent Frank Burst. And he's
Frank
like,
Burst.
Frank Burst, what a great name, whatever. That guy fell out of place in this episode to me. Like the casting of it. He didn't seem like he was the right casting choice, but we'll get there.
Thankfully, they don't really utilize him
Yeah.
heavily throughout the rest of the episode. But okay, so they arrest him. They get him in the back of the car. Frank Burst is sitting up front, talking, kind of gloating a little bit, talking about how I we got you and shit. And he starts like he starts sweating
Yeah.
real bad, and
There's a lot of sweat in this episode.
when you fucking start seeing the sweat, even just peek out, it's like we're in for a good one here. But he starts talking through what seems like a stage show hypnotic performance, like suggesting that things are a certain way, or talking to people, or talking to the guy that's driving the car, basically just focusing on him and trying to get his mind to steer away from what he's doing. And eventually he starts saying, "Cerulean blue is like a gentle breeze." And the out of the side of his eye, like, here comes this giant fucking blue semi, and he just doesn't see it. Pulls out in front of it, just blam,
Well, yeah,
slams into the car.
because they have that moment where the semi like goes invisible. And then he's like, Cerulean blue is like a gentle breeze. And the guy looks back and then, yeah, you're right, wham. But I just remembered something. I don't mean to circle back, but to the Fluke Man thing. But do you remember when in that episode, The Host, Mulder finds out about the Fluke Man because he's looking in what like a National Enquirer thing? Remember? And I wonder if that's supposed to be the exact same thing. Like that National Enquirer-esque sort of magazine is just following up on the story that Mulder originally saw that creature in, because they were
I
talking
mean,
about the thing on the ship.
the National Enquirer did do stuff like that. Like, if there was an
No,
episode or an issue that were particularly popular, a couple of months later, you're going to see it again, or three different ones in a span of 6 months that are all kind of about the same thing. So yeah, I mean, maybe.
could be. So this opening prologue, love it. Even to this day, I think it's great. Cerulean blue is like a gentle breeze, and I love the guy who's playing Pusher. I think his name is Modell in the episode, but he wants everyone to call himself Pusher. And I just think X-Files has this great way of finding actors who just fit these creepy, weird roles perfectly. Whether it's Toombs and all the others, it's just this guy just fit this show perfectly.
They did. They really casted it well. Oh God. Well, no, not. But we're gonna go back to Agent Blast, which they did not. They're talking to him about what had happened, and Agent Blast starts recalling that there was maybe hypnotic suggestion involved. They investigate the car itself, the cop car, and why did I write this? He wrote 9 Inch Nails on the side of the cop car in blood, which was pretty sick.
Yeah, NIN. Um, what I thought loved about this, it's a minor, strange detail, but in this opening sequence here, when they are talking to this guy, Scully is in like a bright red pantsuit, like blindingly bright red. Did you notice that? And then in the rest of the episode, she's not in it at all. So I was like, did they recognize, like, wait a minute, this pantsuit is very distracting of everything going on. So I wrote down Scully in a bright red pantsuit. And I think Burst mentions that Pusher's been killing people for like 2 years, but the deaths, he makes it seem like they're suicides. And that's why, like, no one can really sort of pin everything on him. And I love when he's sitting there, he's like, cerulean blue is like a gentle breeze. And like Mulder throughout this episode just immediately makes leaps that become correct. Like, there's no, I wonder what it's like. He sees Nine Inch Nails on the thing, and then he just pulls out the little slide, turns around. He's like, "Oh, Ronin."
Yeah, a samurai without a master, and I'm like, I wrote Mulder is a fucking weeb. And then he gets into the hypnotic suggestion piece, and he's trying to explain to Scully how this works. And he's like, the mechanism of making kill people, or make, I'm sorry, the mechanism of making people kill themselves is the exact same as commercials getting you to buy shit like ribbon dancers. Like, they just use the repeating words over and over and over again. He's like, yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And then he loosely draws a connection to the Pusher into, like, what magazine was it? Just a random
It's like a
ninja
it's like American
magazine?
Ninja magazine or
Yeah.
something like that.
He's like, we need to look into the personal classified ads that I don't. You guys probably have never ever looked at one of these magazines back in the day, but there would be just weak ass articles, a bunch of shitty advertising for gas station knives, and then you would get like about 8 pages just crammed about 2/3 of the way through the magazine. That's like blow up sex dolls, 1-900 lines for sex perverts, uh what, like, recruiting stuff for the French Foreign Legion, and guys that would offer like their hitman services or training, like how to become militaristic, like. And he's like, I know that this guy is offering up his services in the classified ads.
Yeah, and Scully's going through that, and then they see the classified ad. He's like, "Oh, I've seen the exact same classified ad in every single one of these magazines dating back to like April of 1994 or whatever." And then he immediately just walks to a shelf, pulls out like a book on Japanese words, and he's like, "Ozu, it means
Yeah.
to push." I'm like, okay, they needed to just get that part out of the way to get the show rolling. I understand it, but man, there is there is no trouble in Mulder figuring out exactly what's going on. He figures it out in 2 minutes.
And then gets the number for the guy, calls the payphone in order to, book whatever services this guy offers through the Ninja magazine. And they they go stake out this one payphone. There was this weird scene where he wakes up Scully because she's drooling on his shoulder sitting in the car.
Yeah, she's passed out. They've been sitting out there at that payphone for probably 8 hours.
And then it starts ringing. And so they go out, they answer it. The dude sounds like Ghostface from Scream.
Yeah.
On the big nine, watching you.
Do you like
And
scary movies, Mulder?
and he gives him a clue. Like, so from one, Osu weeb to another, he wants to test Mulder's abilities by giving him clues in order to follow him to bust him. And I was trying to think, like, they couldn't figure out where the number was. Like, they had to call somebody in order to trace this phone back, but didn't star 69 exist
I,
during in 95, 96?
maybe. I don't know.
I want to. Well, for you kids out there, star 69, you could hang up on a call and then hit star 69, and it would dial that number back, so you could figure out where it was.
Could you do it from a payphone?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to Google
And
that.
and so they find out that the dude was calling from a golf club, like a driving range, and he apparently spent the entire fucking night at the driving range because it was the next day that they send in SWAT to go after the Pusher. Wasn't the but didn't the scene begin with the pusher like actually? Yeah, he was swinging,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then he sees a sniper at the end of the driving range in a ghillie suit aiming at him.
Because he's moving around. Look, I saw it too. From that shot when they showed the range, I saw the sniper in the ghillie suit moving around over there. So I was like, I buy it.
Okay, all
I
right,
saw it.
all right. Well, it's his job not to be seen, and he was really bad at it.
Yes.
So the pusher kind of walks away from that and gets into an interior building. A SWAT team like captures him, and then he uses as I
One
write down.
guy, one guy walks in. Like, where is the team? The SWAT team. There
They
is
were
none. It's one dude.
Oh, I thought there was at least three guys, but they all just kind of.
Well, there's three guys, but they're not moving together. They're all off on their own because when the one guy walks in, he's like, "Hey, I got something to tell you," blah blah blah. And then one guy he self immolates himself.
Yeah.
But there's no like team of dudes like going in there. It's one guy that walks in there. Where's the rest of the SWAT team? That's what I wrote.
They were on break.
Fair.
So, so he puts the old mental whammy on the one guy that was about to arrest him. And then the next scene is that SWAT team guy is like covered in gas. He's carrying a gas can like over his head, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he's like crying. He's like, "Help me!" And they're just fucking staring at him.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I said, "Guys is screaming, stop me!" And that actor, props to him. I bought it in that
Oh
moment.
yeah,
That guy was
yeah.
really good. He's like, "Stop
Freaked
me!"
out.
He's literally like taking 20 seconds to pull out the lighter, to flick the lighter on,
Yeah,
and nobody did anything. Like Mulder
yeah. And they're
takes off his trench
standing
coat.
right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
he does. Like he knows something is gonna happen, so he takes off his coat to douse the flames. But he's not on fire yet. He's just like, all right. Once you do something awful, then I got you, dog. And I mean, admitted he does, but the, he was not on fire long enough for the makeup burns that he had.
mm,
Like he is just charred head to toe.
yeah. Look cool though.
Yeah, it did. Then we find the pusher. Wasn't he sitting in a car? No. Was
Yeah,
he
yeah.
arrested or he was
No,
sitting in a car?
yeah, because Mulder's looking for him because
Yeah.
Mulder knows he's there. Everyone's worried, like Scully and everybody's trying to put out the fire of this guy. Then Mulder gets up and goes over and he finds him in his car. And I wrote down, Pusher is exhausted in the car like he just went on a 2-hour sex marathon session. This guy is sweating profusely and he's just kind of like about ready to pass out. And he kind of mocks Mulder a little bit. But yeah, Mulder finds him there. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get off." He's like, "I'll bet you $5 I get off," or something. I was like, "It looks like he already did get off, dude, in that car." Shit.
I wrote, it must be a serious episode because we've not seen this much sweat since season 3, episode 2. So we go to this court scene. It's like an arraignment scene where we're gonna figure out what they want to do, and it's so fucking stupid because even before Pusher does in this scene kind of make the judge do what he wants him to do. But before he even starts in with putting the whammy on the judge is just like ready to dismiss all this shit out of hand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hold this guy. Yeah, okay, whatever. This FBI agent in front of, 3 different of their FBI agents just watched him immolate himself. They're all there to testify about it. And the judge is just saying, I don't think so.
Well, this is goes back to what was that second Tombs episode where there's that courtroom scene and Mulder's on the stand. Like, if this show has taught us anything, it's the FBI should never put Mulder on the stand because Mulder just, and they always show, they cut to a reaction of Scully like rolling her eyes and like the case is done here because Mulder gets up there, he's like, he can will him. I believe he can do this, and it's just so unbelievable that the case essentially gets dismissed. But you're right. I actually made a note that Pusher doesn't really say anything to the judge other
Yeah.
than I'm not guilty. Like I didn't do this. and he just kind of stares at the judge. And I was like, is he mentally just putting this in, or does he actually have to use words to get people to do the things that he wants them to do? But yeah, you're right. The judge was ready to dismiss this out of hand, and Scully says so as much later on. She's like, "We had nothing, dude. We had nothing."
And I was so mad at her about that because she was so dismissive after watching a perfectly healthy FBI agent light himself on fucking fire 5 feet in front of her. Like, no, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
We don't
Well,
need to worry about any of this.
well, Mulder's like, I don't know, maybe put the whammy on the judge, and she's like, please explain to me the
Yeah,
scientific nature of the whammy. Like, it's so dismissive, and Mulder's like, what's your theory? She's like, I don't have one.
nothing. Oh yeah, back to the sweating in the car scene. He bets Mulder $5 that the judge gets him off, or he gets off after the judgment thing, and Mulder pays up. He meets him on the way out of the court, takes a $5 bill out of his wallet, and gives it to the pusher.
He never
Mulder.
actually gives it to him.
Oh, he doesn't? I swear he
No, no.
pulls it out, doesn't
He
he?
does. He does. He pulls it out. He pulls out the $5, and then he's like, "Your shoes are untied." And he makes Pusher look down, and he's like, "Made you look." And then he goes to hand him the $5, and when Pusher goes to grab it, he pulls it back. So he never
Oh,
actually gives him the $5.
okay, okay. I gave him too much credit because I thought he just like paid up.
Nope.
Mulder completely, or being the profiler that he does, completely guesses who the pusher is, though there's no history about that. He failed out of SEALs in the Green Beret. He wanted to be an FBI agent. We get that great line from Scully to please explain the scientific nature of the whammy.
Yeah.
And
I like this whole dynamic between Pusher and Mulder as well, and they touch on this a couple times during the episode. But Pusher tells, like, even on that initial phone call at the payphone, where Pusher's like, "I am looking for a worthy adversary," and he recognizes that Mulder is that worthy adversary, and they have that sort of cat and mouse game throughout. I really enjoyed that aspect of this episode.
they've done this before, and I can't remember what episode that they did it with, where somebody was playing with Mulder a lot. Was it that one where Mulder saw the cross and got shot on the
Oh
dock?
yeah, well that's Beyond the Sea.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm misremembering something. But anyway, um, we get back to Pusher goes to the FBI, and this is where I don't think he needs to use his voice because he has the what is it the visitor pass, like he just wrote something on a piece of paper on his chest,
Yeah, then he just
and he
wrote
just
pass on it and put it on.
walks up to the dude that's on the other side of the metal detectors, and he doesn't say anything to him. He doesn't say, or suggesting that I belong here, that you can let me through, that all of my stuff is in order. He just kind of goes through and says he's on his way to computer records.
So no Jedi mind trick.
I don't not verbal anyway.
Okay.
He finds a gal named Holly, and he makes her, who earlier in the episode we ran into Holly. She's all upset. There was kind of a throwaway line that she got robbed or something like that, and was roughed up a little bit. She kind of had a black eye. You remember who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, yeah. At first I
Okay,
thought it
good.
was like a domestic violence situation or something, but no, she just gets robbed, and Mulder's like, "Did they catch the guy?" And she's like, "Do you guys ever?" Like very dismissive and like, "Oh shit." But she's back and she's about to kick some ass.
He gets her to pull up files on, I believe, Mulder or something. I can't even remember because they don't really say, but just gets
Yeah, it's Mulder.
printouts. And then says it's a weird moment where he shares with Holly that he cares what happened to her with the abuser. It's like, I'm gonna help, or I'm gonna make your abuser pay, or maybe it was just setting him up to kick Skinner's ass. I don't know.
I thought that was an interesting moment as well because I was like, was that written to try to garner some sort of sympathy towards Pusher a little bit? Like, because you can have characters who do awful things, but then there are also aspects of them that you'd be like, well, that's not that bad of an aspect. And I think if we had the power of Pusher, and like for example, the douchebag that was abusing my mom, I think I would probably use it to take some of revenge on that. And I think the average person would be like, okay, yeah, I mean, that's probably a
Fuck,
bad thing, but it's understandable. One less
sure.
piece of trash in the world.
I'm gonna use my powers to help people kill themselves.
I'd be
No, I.
full. I'd be full Sith, by the way.
I
I'm
mean,
just letting you know. Just
hey, you're talking to the guy that's gonna mash that button. So, but okay, so yes, at that moment when he said it, there was a sympathetic moment, but immediately afterwards, Skinner walks in and he's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And
yeah,
dude tries to put the mental whammy on Skinner and he can't, which
yeah,
I found to be super interesting.
yeah. Because the Force has a way of working on the weak-minded, but Skinner is not weak-minded. He's a
So, but
Vietnam War vet.
so the pusher convinces Holly that Skinner is his abuser, and she pulls out the pepper spray and then just kicks the shit out of Skinner.
He's like, make him hurt like he hurt me. She just starts kicking him with her high heels.
Oh yeah, it gives it to him. And then the next, like the very next scene, she's just crying and apologizing, like, I don't know what came over me.
I'm so sorry, sir. So sorry.
Scully interviews her and confirms that Pusher was in her head making her do these things. And so, what bust him for criminal trespass?
Yeah,
What's yeah?
because Skinner's out there. He's like, why do I have like a 10-inch mark on my high heel mark on my forehead or something? And Mulder's like, this is what's going on. And Skinner's like, just go fucking arrest this dude. And Mulder's like, for what? Like, all we've got is criminal trespass. And Skinner's like, that's enough for a warrant.
By the way, the last time we saw Skinner get into a fist fight, and I think we find out, have we found out that he's a Vietnam vet guy, and that's kind of why he's a grizzled
Yes.
dude.
There was an episode where he mentioned he was in the Vietnam
And so he meets
Special Forces or
X.
something.
He meets X in that stairwell, and X kind of whoops his ass.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes in and meets Holly, who looks like she's about 101 pounds soaking wet. She kicks the shit out of him too.
Yep.
So
I have a fun fact about that once we get through the episode.
all right. So they kick his door down. Scully comes in with her piece drawn. I wanted to note that she has a gun out. Mulder is completely unarmed. And then they don't immediately find him in there, but they start saying, check with the neighbors, go through this whole building. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not, I don't think that's how search warrants work. You don't get to break into a single apartment and then decide he's somewhere in the building and just start ransacking everybody in the area's apartment.
Right. But they could go to a neighbor and ask, will you let me into your house to look for this guy who might be in here? And if they give them permission to enter that other apartment, then they could
Ah.
conceivably do that. One funny thing I did put on here, and this is just a stupid thing that I really enjoyed. It's such a minor thing. When they they break in with the search warrant, and Mulder's got the search warrant in his hand. Mulder does this thing that I used to do on my televisions as a kid all the time. He just puts the warrant on the television, but with the static electricity or whatever, it sticks to the television. I used to put papers and stuff on TV all the time when it was on. It was just this kind of cool little thing that made me nostalgic for when I was a kid and I used to do that.
I did
Warrant on the
not know
television.
that televisions. I mean, I guess I did with balloons, but I didn't know paper would just stick to a TV like
Yeah. Yeah,
that. Wow.
I used to like draw things and then stick it to the television. Those cathode ray tube televisions. Yeah.
Some deep cut Matt lore going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, the more you know. Learning something new about me every day.
So they go into the fridge, they find the man milk. Through
So much
his
protein
God.
shakes.
But they just show him buying it and they show that he has it, but I think they skipped or cut scenes that involve like they talk about why he needs all of that protein, but
Yeah, they mentioned because Mulder puts it together in one of the scenes where he's talking to Scully. He's like, "Well, he's got all this protein in there. Maybe he's so exhausted. It wasn't a jack off session in the car when we found him at the golf course that he was passing out from. It's because he uses so much whatever protein, I guess, or his metabolism is taxed trying to convince people to do these things that he's got to replenish it." And that's kind of what Mulder. I don't think they did a great way connecting the protein cans. I wish that we could have seen Pusher like eating out of the cans or something, like a scene with him in his apartment, and you just have tons of them open, scattered around, or something. But I think that's what they were getting at.
yeah, no, we were just missing that connective tissue.
Yeah.
Where am I at in my notes? So they find the man milk. They find his. Did they find his medical records there, or did they check with a hospital for some reason and find out that he has temporal lobe epilepsy?
Yeah, the next thing I have in my notes here is Pusher has a brain tumor and epilepsy. Well, they find out he has epilepsy, and then Mulder asks Scully, "Well, what could cause blah blah?" And she's like, "Well, brain tumor." He's like, "Brain tumor, you say?" Well, that makes perfect sense. He's got a brain tumor that allows him to do psychic sort of power stuff, and yeah,
Psychokinesis.
and Scully's like, "What?" Again, Mulder's just figuring everything out. And later on in this episode, Scully literally says, "You were right, Mulder." And I wanted him to say, "You're damn right I was right. I'm always fucking right. Trust me now. We're 3 seasons in. Just trust me when I say these things."
And of all of his well, now early on when he was jumping to conclusions, she shouldn't have trusted him. But once we got well underway, like so, we the phone rings. They get a tracer on it. Wants to talk to Frank Burst. Pusher starts telling Frank that he's fat for his height,
Yeah.
and then just starts telling him like, "All that fucking bacon you eat just clogging." Just basically triggers a coronary in him, and Mulder just can't get him to hang up. The guy just like, I don't want to hang up the phone.
Yeah. Well, he's telling everybody to hang up the phone. I was like, Mulder, why don't you just like run up and pull it out of
Take it, yeah.
out of the wall, dude? He's just screaming and no one's listening to him, and the guy just dies. And then Mulder picks up the phone and has a little conversation with Pusher, which is nice.
And it and Pusher tells him he wants a worthy adversary, and I'm thinking for a second, it's like, okay, you want a worthy adversary? You had one in Skinner. Why wouldn't you focus on
Oh,
that?
true, true. I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, he couldn't put the whammy on Skinner. That would, yeah, that's a good point.
And so he wants Mulder to take a shot at him, and Mulder talks shit to him on the phone for a little bit. Um, he knows he knows suddenly that the gas station the Pusher was calling from, it just happens to be next to the very hospital that Pusher gets treatment at for his brain tumor,
Yes.
and knows that he was on his way to get treatment, not leaving treatment. So they go to the hospital, skipping over the gas station, found Pusher's car, found it that was still warm, tells SWAT to go on hold, and he suggests that Mulder goes in alone. And then I wrote, not Skinner though. They give Mulder a space marine from Alien's head cam, and he asks if he could get the Playboy channel on it, which I found great.
That was funny. I love when he's moving around with that, and you see the video footage on the television, and he pans over to Scully, and her face, she just looks just like it's like everything's gonna go terrible here, and he's like, "Smile, Scully." And I just thought that was fun. I laughed out loud when I saw her face. Gillian Anderson is such an underrated actress. Just when she's not like speaking and everything, just the looks that she gives, perfect.
She's in this show, she's consistently better of the two.
Yeah.
I mean, I worship the ground Mulder walked on when I was a kid, and yeah, Scully was great. But what rewatching these, like, he's not even close 90% of the time.
And it's going to be interesting when we get to the point in the show where David Duchovny leaves, and it's essentially just Gillian Anderson can she carry all of those later seasons? Because there's a lot of those, probably seasons 8 and 9, I didn't watch much of. By that point, I was kind of, when David Duchovny left the show, I kind of checked out of X-Files as a kid.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, I was there for Mulder. That was when I was a kid. That's what I was there for. And I'll be really curious when we get there. Is like, can Gillian Anderson carry those episodes down the line? We'll see.
We'll see. Mulder surrenders his gun so that he doesn't shoot anybody because he figures that he's probably going to get the whammy put on him.
Yeah. And he's really, really sweaty in this upcoming scene. I wrote
Oh
that down.
God. He hears two shots fired as he casually strolls into the area where gunfire is going on. His camera goes funny and or fuzzy, and then it clears, and there's two dead guys, a doctor and a security guard. So Scully sees the brain scan, knows the mass is a tumor, and there we go. Mulder is dripping sweat, all in caps.
I mean, it is just
So creepy.
the dude's going to be dehydrated in about 30 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
all of the water in his body is leaving his face.
In the scene, the pusher is clearly dying. He's got nothing to lose. Scully begs him to leave, and he turns, and Pusher is just sitting there with a huge pistol.
Yeah. And
Scully
again, I love
goes
Gillian Action's reaction to that, too.
Scully goes in completely unarmed, and they can't because they can't or SWAT can't gas the area without risking all. They're like in an ICU area. There's all these other patients sitting around. They can't gas the area without killing all of these patients. So she goes through the area until she comes up to where Mulder is sitting there with the pusher, who is sweating like a pig. And
I'm
they're
surprised she
playing.
didn't slip when she walked into the room. Just how much sweat and water's on the floor by now.
Taste it. Anyway, they're playing Russian roulette. Only Mulder is the only one pulling the trigger, and he is under the control of Pusher. They're having this moment where it's like this is the weeb fight between Pusher and Mulder, the Ronin crap. And so I think there was only one pull, and Scully warns that you pull the trigger, you're gonna blow everybody up because there's just pure oxygen in the room. And then he just without even thinking about it, just pulls the trigger on Pusher,
Yeah.
and then turns the gun on himself, pulls it, turns it on Scully, and Scully is like, was she begging him at that point to fight it?
Yeah, so how I remember it going down is when she initially sits down and Pusher's like, "Come on, Mulder, you get one shot." And I love that moment when Mulder grabs the pistol and then Pusher puts his hand over it. He's like, "One pull, buddy." Like, you get one pull. And then Scully says, "Hey, you could blow us all up," essentially. And then Mulder's like, "Yeah, boom." And then Scully like kind of like freaks out. And then as soon as the gun where Pusher's like, "All right, Mulder, now it's your turn," and Scully starts to freak out. Right? She's like, "Well, you don't have to do this, Mulder." And he puts the gun to his head. She really starts sort of freaking out. And then he pulls it, and she screams and she yells at Pusher. She's essentially, it's like, "God damn you!" She goes into that mode that she did in Beyond the Sea.
Hmm.
She goes into that super protective of Mulder, Scully, like, "I'm gonna fuck you up" sort of thing. And then Mulder pulls the gun on her, and then she starts freaking out. She's like, "No," and then she starts crying, which I thought was great. There's that tight close up of Gillian Anderson's face, and the tear is like running down like her cheek from her eye. I'm
Yeah,
just like, this is so good. Like, she put so much into this. Like, she treated this material with the respect it deserved. I love her as an actress for that.
really good. And even to Mulder's credit, to David Duchovny's credit, you can see the struggle in his face where he fights the compulsion to shoot
Yeah.
Scully, that he just can't bring himself to do it. And somebody pulls a fire alarm, and that's just enough.
Well, that's her, because to me this
Oh,
this
right.
this circled back around to the guy who self-immolates himself, right? So in that, the guy is like, "Stop me, somebody please stop me." and nobody does anything. And in this moment, Mulder's telling Scully is like, "Run, run," and then she sees like the reflection of the fire alarm in the mirror, and she turns and she pulls it, and that's when it goes off. And the fire alarm is what breaks the suggestion from Pusher.
And Mulder just gets that ass immediately. He just turns
Yeah.
fire the shot that or the shot that was meant for Scully would have killed her, and he
Yep.
just turns and blows Pusher away by shooting him in the head with a 357 Magnum at point
Yeah.
blank
And he
range.
tells Pusher before he turns it on Scully, he's like, "I'm gonna kill you." Like he tells Pusher that. And what's funny is like he just keeps pulling the trigger.
Yeah,
Like he
empty
doesn't
cylinder
stop.
after empty cylinder.
Yeah.
He was gonna blow that guy to chunks if he could.
Such a cool sequence. That whole Russian roulette scene, the acting is just great. Even David Duchovny's acting in that, I think he's not as good as Pusher and Scully in that, but I thought he elevated it pretty good as well for what he usually brings to the table.
And then we find out that the Pusher survives a point blank fucking headshot to the head from a 357 Magnum. We
Yeah.
find out that the tumor was operable, but he kept saying no to the operation in order to make him feel big. And
Yeah,
then they
there's that moment earlier on in the episode where it's kind of like a throwaway theory. I don't remember if Mulder says it or if Scully says it. It might be Scully who says it, where it's like, oh, maybe he just wants to, feel big, like he's a small man trying to do big things or something like that. And then this end sequence to find out is like, oh no, it's actually true. Like he wanted to even though he was dying, he wanted to keep these powers because it made him feel something. Because Mulder's like, this guy's mediocre at everything. He's mediocre at life, school, work, everything, but this is what made him feel like a big man because he was so small throughout his whole life.
and then they just kind of or they end the episode with, "I say we don't let him take another minute of our time."
Yep.
Then it ends.
All right, so your thoughts on Pusher?
This episode was excellent. I In a season where everything took off compared to season 1, season 2, from the closer of season 2 all the way up through now, this this season has just gone off like a rocket as far as quality goes.
Yeah.
And it'd be hard. I found that, you know, thinking what is going to be my top 5, what's going to be my bottom 5. I think this may, and spoilers, this may be my favorite episode of this entire season, just
Okay.
because it stuck with me and everything in it. With every this episode, other than Agent Blast, which they underutilized, thankfully, this was almost a perfect episode.
Yeah, this is one of those episodes where when I sat down to rewatch it, I had such fond memories of this as a kid and talking to you and Brady about this episode as a kid. And just like this has been, aspects like the Cerulean Blue Line has been with me my entire life since I've watched this. And I've always had fun. And I was like worried. I was like, oh God, is this going to like, basically destroy all these great? And it didn't. It
Yeah,
was just as good. Like, I don't really
it
care.
got better, really.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't really care about the little things in this show. And I think that's rewatching all of this, like the little plot holes or the leaps to conclusions so quickly. To me, like that's just the fabric of this show. And I can allow myself to be like overlook stuff that I might be critical of other shows, to be fair. But because I love this, I love these characters, I love the storytelling aspect so much, I'm just going to roll with it because it's part of the DNA of the show. And I think if I was just an outsider who was not familiar with X Files and jumped into this show and was like, well, wait a minute, how are these people making such quick leaps of logic and all of this stuff, that might bother me. But that's not who I am. I love this show to my core. And to me, this was a perfect encapsulation of what makes X Files great. You have great actors who really bring it to, how do I want to phrase this? Like, I wouldn't say like this story or this content is like the most groundbreaking, but everyone treats it with respect and gives it like the gravity that it needs to to be able to pull it off. So, like, if you had lesser actors in some of this stuff, it just wouldn't work. But luckily, they always cast it right, and just the idea that this guy can like talk people into sort of doing things that he wants and killing themselves and stuff. It's such a cool concept, and I don't know. I just really love this, and I actually wrote that as a note on here. I was like, man, is this going to be my number one when I do my top five? There's so many good episodes this season, and there's still more
Gonna
to
be a tough
come.
one,
Yeah, yeah.
but
So
that's
cool. Yeah, we both love this episode. Let's go into some fun facts here from Wikipedia and IMDb. Vince Gilligan wanted the episode to be a, quote, tense cat and mouse game between Mulder and Modell. And he later explained, the only conscious thing I wanted to do from the start was to get them together as much as I could. When Gilligan turned in his script, he told series creator Chris Carter that the episode was, quote, the best work I'm ever going to do for you, unquote. Chris Carter retorted that the show's writers should try to outdo their last effort, and Modell would later return in the fifth season episode Kitsungari. So we're going to see him back. And I don't remember that episode at all. Do you remember?
I did not know he returned.
He comes back. The final scene, featuring a game of Russian roulette, was met with resistance from Fox's Standards and Practices Department, which argued that because the game had never been seen in a television series before, it was unsuitable for broadcast. The department also claimed that the scene could be harmful to impressionable young children. After a series of tense negotiations, the producers refused to concede, and the scene was included in the episode largely uncut. Gilligan later noted that he could not believe that they got away with it. And that scene kind of makes this episode. Like, I can't imagine how they would have ended this episode without that Russian roulette scene. And I
I,
think The Deer Hunter, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Deer Hunter.
I have.
Very famous Russian roulette scene in there with Christopher Walken. And I think like there's a true story about a bunch of kids watched that movie and did Russian roulette, and one of them killed themselves or something like that. So there was always a very big sort of like, you don't show that on television for what it might do. When Mulder is being fitted for a camera, the script originally had him ask if the device received was for the Discovery Channel, and Duchovny, knowing that his character had an interest in porn, changed the line to the Playboy Channel. So that was a David Duchovny special there. Several actors were considered for the role of Pusher, even Lance Henriksen, who went on to play the lead role in Millennium. Which, I don't know, could you picture Lance Henriksen in that role?
With that gritty voice saying Cerulean Blue.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I love Lance Henriksen.
So do I.
No disrespect to the actor, but that would have been sick.
Yeah, it would have been really cool. Mitch Pileggi was disappointed in the fact that the episode featured his character, Skinner, getting beat up, something which had occurred in multiple episodes already by this point. Quote, I was feeling a little uncomfortable with him getting his ass kicked so much, and I think the fans were too, unquote. So yeah, hopefully going forward, we see Skinner kick some more ass. And I don't know if you knew this, Jeremy. Dave Grohl, the lead singer and guitarist of Foo Fighters and former drummer for Nirvana, makes a cameo in this episode, along with his then-wife Jennifer Youngblood, in the scene where Modell sneaks into the FBI building. Grohl, who has an active interest in UFO lore, called the episode his acting debut, and you can actually see Dave Grohl walking behind Pusher, like Pusher's in the foreground walking, and Dave Grohl's behind him.
I did not see that.
At one point during the episode, Mulder and Scully identify a phone number the Pusher had called to be that for a golf driving range and a pro shop. Scully quips, so he's a killer and a golfer, to which Mulder replies, rings a bell, huh? This is a not too subtle reference to O.J. Simpson, alleged murderer and avid golfer. Pusher is said by Scully to have told aggrandizing lies in his failed FBI application, including, quote, being a martial arts master, being trained by Gurkhas in Nepal, trained by ninjas in Japan, unquote. These specific lies are a reference to Frank Dux, most famous for being the writer inspiration of Bloodsport, the movie from 1988 with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Dux claimed that was a true story of him entering the Kumite, a super secret international underground fighting tournament where elite martial artists fought to the death. Dux is notorious for his bizarre, childish lies. He also claimed to have been an elite CIA undercover operative, to have been trained by Shaolin monks, and that as a 14-year-old, he used to knock out ex-Green Berets in underground bare-knuckle boxing matches. And I actually looked up this guy, Frank Dux. If you want to see a wild guy who just lies about everything, that's something to check into.
Jeez.
The viewer can find lots of things in common between Breaking Bad's Walter White and Modell. Vince Gilligan has repeatedly said that Walter White's big superpower is lying, as is Modell's. Both of them have the power to manipulate others with words, and both of them are simple, mediocre men. Both of them know that they are dying and become spectacular criminals. So if you're a Breaking Bad fan, which I have not seen Breaking Bad, it's on my list. Everyone tells me I need to watch it. But Vince Gilligan probably took a lot of Walter White from Pusher here. And two more quick things here. At the 35:57 mark of the episode, a close up of the dead technician clearly shows actor Doug Hutchison, who, as we all know, plays the ever sinister Eugene Victor Toombs. So Toombs has a cameo in this episode. And then since it's airing, many reviewers, and I think this gets to your point, Jeremy, many reviewers list this episode as one of the best episodes of the X-Files period. IGN named it its third best standalone episode of the X-Files, writing, though the episode is loaded with memorable scenes of terror, it's the emotional bond between our two leads that really resonates. And I think we didn't talk about that a whole lot, but you can really tell Mulder and Scully's relationship, that they care about each other in this episode quite a bit. Den of Geek listed Pusher as their seventh best episode of the series and called it a good game of cat and mouse. And Expose magazine named the Russian roulette scene one of the 20 coolest moments in the X-Files, ranking it at number 8. And the magazine called the sequence completely gripping. So there's your fun facts about Pusher. Any final comments about this episode, Jeremy?
Yeah, just get out there and enjoy it. It's so good.
Yeah, super, super cool. So thank you for listening. Hey, I want to throw a special shout out to our listener, Corey, who is leaving comments on our YouTube for every single episode. We record these things way in advance, so by the time we get to it, I always forget to mention our listeners. But thank you to the listeners out there who are leaving comments. Corey, we consider you our super fan, leaving comments on everything, and thank you for continuing to listen. So hit that like and subscribe. Share the show with other X-Files fans if you know people who like it. Yeah, we'll be back next Friday. And I don't even know what episode is coming up next. You're ahead of me. Do you remember what episode's coming up next?
Teso dos bichos.
Okay, so stay tuned next Friday. We will talk about that. See you then, everybody.